The Twitchiest community has earned themselves a $1,000 bonus giveaway by reaching all of our goals with Guardian Tales. So go ahead and check out the description down below to go get your entries. The more ways you enter, the better your chances to win the $1,000, and keep your eyes out for opportunities in the future to earn more cash giveaways for the Twitchiest community. Hello everybody, welcome to your Zhong Kui middle guide. We are going to be going right into the Vampiric Shroud. I love Vamp Shroud on Zhong Kui. He's already a pretty tanky boy. This makes him a lot tankier. You can go the conduit on Zhong Kui and later take that into the Gem of Focus if you so desire. The Gem of Focus in the ultra late game for the Zhong Kui is quite nice. And it will allow you to go very aggressive with some of that bonus movement speed. But I personally would rather just have the extra early game sustain in order to make it through. And then in the late game, if we're feeling good, we can turn that, of course, into our Sacrificial Shroud for just a ridiculous amount of damage. Or you can even actually sell it on a mage right now and just get a different item. Zhong Kui does not get a ton of gameplay right now. A lot of that is just because he's really got that solo lane mage persona. You know, he's kind of bruisery, not a big burst damage kind of guy. Not what you would think of at first. And he doesn't have a movement ability, which tends to make the mid lane hard. Having a movement ability right now just is so important. So he does not get a ton of gameplay, but he is one of those guys that I do think is viable, more so in the mid lane than the solo lane, just because warriors have such a crazy like stranglehold right now on the solo lane with the blue stone and like the fighter's mask and the reinforced shoes and all that stuff. That might slightly go away with the mid-season patch, but we will just simply have to wait and see. So for our Zhong Kui at level 1, we're going to grab our 1. This is our bleed and our slow. And this ability is going to interact with our other abilities on Zhong Kui. So our 1 is going to put this bleed on them, and it is going to last for 5 seconds.
Look for the one.
Unless we use one of our other abilities in order to take that effect off. So if we use our 1, and then if we use our 2, that is going to do some additional burst damage. So it is going to take the bleed off of the target. It's going to do a percent of the remaining damage. 75% of that remaining damage is done. Then it's going to do the actual damage for our 2, and it is also going to heal us if we have that 1 on the target. So if we don't have the 1, just does the damage, no heal. If we have the 1 and then the 2, we get a heal on top of the damage. For our 3, which we're going to get at level 3, this is going to do 2 different things. We got a little double auto attack now. You get a little ghosty that gives you a little double auto. It basically is like a half auto on top of it, so it's like you're hitting for 1.5 times. And if we use our 3, it is going to be a stun and a circular motion around Zhong Kui. And if we have our 1 on the target, instead of just being a regular duration stun, it is going to be a double duration stun. So the stun starts off at 0.6, works its way up to 1, which means if you have the bleed on them, that would actually be 1.2 all the way up to a 2-second stun. So it can be a very long stun, potentially. Then finally at level 5, grabbing our ultimate. Our ultimate is gonna make us knock up immune,
Enemy missing.
as well as immune to slows. And this is just gonna be our big old W key right at the enemy team, doing lots of AoE damage. Which means that our standard combination on Zhong Kui is gonna be to slow them down with our 1 so we can get into range. Pop our ultimate. so that they are stuck within that ulti circle because of the slow that is on them.
Enemy ultimate down!
Then following up with either the damage from our 2 if we think it's going to kill them, or we can 3 so they're stunned even longer in the duration, and then follow up at the 2 at the very end. Another nice thing about Zhong Kui is the fact that he is default tanky. So what I mean by default tanky is because of his passive. Your passive is going to give you protections, and those protections make you tanky by default. So you're going to get up to 40 stacks of this, and each one of those stacks is going to be giving you protections. And if you use your ultimate, you are actually going to gain even more of those protections. So you get double the amount when you pop your ultimate. So you're extra super tanky in your ultimate, and you do lose half of those stacks if you die. For the level order on Zhong Kui, we're going to be maxing our ultimate whenever we can. Just going to give us that raw damage on the Zhong Kui ult. You have to keep in mind that it looks like it only increases it by 15 damage, but this is actually times 5 because it's going to come out once a second for 5 seconds. Plus, you have the scaling on that as well. So the damage on this adds up really quick. Then we're going to level our 2 up to max. This is going to increase the sustain that we get from the heal. That heal is going to make us even tankier and harder to deal with. Then I like to do my 1 after that, and then finally my 3. So 4, 2, 1, 3. That 1 increased damage on the tick, the reason why that is so relevant is because it does 75% of the damage when you remove it, which means if you have extra damage remaining on it, you're going to get a lot more damage out of that 1-2 big burst combo. That 1-2 big burst combo is what you're going to be using more so than anything else. It's your standard form of poke. It's your lane clear. It's your sustain. It's kind of Zhong Kui's bread and butter. Also, a little fun tidbit about Zhong Kui. It's not going to be relevant pretty soon because the vines are going away, but with the double auto, it does mean you can get rid of those vines with just one nice little quick auto attack, which means the vines are actually not that big of a deal for Zhong Kui. Even though he doesn't have a way to get over them, he can simply eliminate them with just one quick auto.
Not done yet.
On Zhong Kui, as far as our power spikes are concerned, Zhong Kui is really a mid-game team fight character. Early game in the laning phase, you're probably not gonna go for like solo kills. You don't really have the damage so much to do that unless somebody's like really mispositioning themselves. But you do have extremely good mid-game team fight potential. Like right now, when that ultimate is active, that is a death zone that nobody wants to walk into. The 2v2, 3v3 fight is really where Zhong Kui is going to thrive, and that's what's going to help you propel yourself into the late game. So I would say the mid game right now honestly starts as early as like the 6-minute marker. It's really like the first 5 minutes of the game are early game, 5 to 15 minutes is the mid game, and then 15 plus you're basically into the late game right now. And I would say that 5 to 15 minute marker, that's when Zhong Kui starts to thrive, right around that like level 7 to 9 marker, where you can start looking for those fights with your ulti. Of course, if it's fully stacked, all the better, because you're going to get those extra protections in those fights. Naturally, people are going to want to focus you because you've got this giant ability going out, but they're not going to be able to kill you because you're going to be so tanky with that Vamp Shroud, extra little bit of extra lifesteal from your boots, and then the protections that you're getting. Not to mention if you get that nice 1-2 off Papow. So for the build, we're going to go into a early Karen's Coin. Early Karen's Coin is going to allow us to start getting stacked. We have quite a bit of base damage in our kit, So as long as they do not have the protections in order to stop us, we're going to be able to kill them. 4 damaging abilities on the Zhong Kui, which means we want that percent pen, and I like to get it stacked early on Zhong Kui because of the need for some additional movement speed. Zhong Kui likes the addition of some extra movement speed because he needs to be in range of his ultimate. It is a very, very large circle, but you will find that people have a pretty easy time getting themselves right on out of it. So having that little bit of additional movement speed from the Karen's coin can help you keep people in that range and maximize your DPS. I'm actually gonna run right at this. Yanis right here. That was a really good Athena taunt. It's actually gonna keep him alive. Without that Athena taunt right there, that Janice dies for sure. I'm just gonna heal myself right on up off this wave. Give it a 1, give it a 2. Look at that, you're back at full HP. You can probably heal about 40% of your HP with a heal combo on Zhong. Keep in mind, you do get credit for up to 3 different targets, so I can have my 1 on up to 3 targets and get credit for on the 2. So this heal is actually 120 times 3, so it's basically a 400 hit point heal potential right now already, and that does not include, of course, any actual lifesteal that I'm getting from the damage of my abilities, because I've got the lifesteal on my boots and then the extra sustain from the Vamp Shroud. So what does Zhong Kui like to go against? Zhong Kui like to go against gods that do not have the ability to get over walls. Zhong Kui has no way to track people down over walls other than to hope like his bleed that's still on somebody can kill them. Somebody leaping over a wall is going to be the easiest way for them to just get away from all of your damage, the easiest way for them to get outside of your ultimate range, and this stop you from being able to chase them down. You don't have any bonus movement speed or nothing of that sort, right?
Turn and fight.
So people that can summon walls and people that can get over walls are the 2 things that are going to be the most problematic for you. Somebody like a Ymir can summon a wall right in front of you when you're trying to ultimate, and then now you've got to spend a full second trying to walk around that wall. Now people might be outside of your ultimate range, and all of a sudden you just wasted your 90-second cooldown. So watch out for people that can summon walls, get you away from a team fight with it because you have no way through it, or people that you won't be able to chase down because they can get through walls really easy. So that means that anybody that is reliant on a dash, on bonus movement speed, anything of that sort, you tend to do very well against, because you can kind of just use your continuous slowing capabilities to run at them and track them down. Somebody like a Yanis, right, is going to keep going through all of these walls, so I can't really chase him down, but I do have the ability to bleed him, which is quite nice. And so if he's about to get away with 1 HP, just getting that bleed on him can oftentimes be enough damage to go ahead and grab the kill. So Ymir's about to ulti me, so I'm actually going to pop my own ultimate, not for the damage aspect of the ability, but actually for the protections. Remember, popping that ultimate is going to give you double the protections that you are currently getting from your passive, so it helps me take a lot less damage from the Ymir ult when he pops it.
Retreat middle lane.
Now for our third item here on Zhong Kui, you do have a couple of options. But I'm going to get an item that I really do like on Zhong Kui, more so than maybe any other god in the game. even more so than Anubis, and you probably know what the item is now, and that is going to be a Spear of the Magus. Spear of the Magus gives you that extra damage after you use an ability on somebody. So we're going to get a little bit of life steal, which is fantastic on our Zhong Kui. Going to pair well with our boot, and of course our Vamp Shroud later on in the game if we do decide to keep it in the Sacrificial Shroud. And we're going to get a little bit of early game pen, a ton of magical power, but more importantly, when an enemy god takes damage with an ability, you mark them for 7.5% increased damage from all sources, which means you throw your bleed on somebody, they're now marked for those basically next couple of seconds that you need. They're slowed because it's your one, and then you chase them down with your ultimate. The synergy is just really, really nice on Zhong Kui, and we're also going to be getting a blink as our second active. Now on Zhong Kui, Aegis is a really good active. So you can of course just go beads and Aegis like you would standardly on a mid laner, but Zhong Kui is one of my very few mid laners that I almost always get a blink on.
Enemies incoming left.
And the reason why I get a blink on him is because it just makes the team fight end stage of the game so much easier. Instead of having to find a sneaky way into a team fight, trying to position yourself super correctly, you just kind of say, screw it, I don't really need to position myself at all. I'm just gonna straight up blink right into you with my ultimate popped. So all you do is you blink in and your ulti, and then now you've got that Spear of the Magus proc on everybody, and then you spam all of your abilities. It's hard for the enemy team to turn on you and focus you down, because then they're trying to fight into somebody that's got all this sustain, that's got all this HP 5 Garen's coin, that's got all this healing capabilities, the bonus protections. You don't really want to turn and fight the Zhong Kui while he's ulting. You mostly want to turn and run away. And so if you can start the team fight by the enemy wanting to run away, you're already in a great spot for your whole team. As far as pairings for your own team with Zhong Kui, Zhong Kui doesn't particularly pair well with anybody. He's not going to be a great god for follow-up. He's not going to be a great god to set up people, which means that you want to just pair another god with Zhong Kui that is what I would call a selfish character. Zhong Kui can fight and hold his own very well. You can see the Athena and the Gilgamesh jumped right on top of me. I just pop my ultimate, get all this protection, slow him down, just kind of waddle him around. No issues whatsoever. So you could pair him with another selfish character. Somebody like a Nemesis, I would consider a selfish character. She's not really going to set up the team, right? She just has some slows. She's not really going to be able to follow up off a bunch of setup, but she does just provide a lot of raw damage, a lot of raw pressure. So you pair somebody like that with a Zhong Kui, all of a sudden you've got two really good fighters just able to hold down the W key and get some kills. I also bring up Nemesis to pair with your Zhong Kui because the best god probably in the game versus Zhong Kui is Nemesis. Nemesis's ultimate really is what does you in. Zhong Kui, of course, getting all these bonus protections. You pop your ultimate on Zhong Kui. Well, now Nemesis pops her ultimate. And not only is she slowing you down, well, she can't really slow you down if you're in your ultimate, but not only would she be slowing you down if you weren't in your ultimate, she's siphoning your protections. So all of your tankiness, all of your coolness of being Zhong Kui goes right out the window, because she basically takes all your protections, and the more protections you have, the more protections you are very literally giving to Nemesis. And then it forces you into oftentimes having to buy a wing blade, because then you're like, do I use my ultimate after her ultimate to try to counter it for the slow immunity, or do I just buy the wing blade? It becomes a whole disaster and a whole situation you just simply don't want to deal with. Now I'm going to grab myself that Rod Up to Hootie. Rod Up to Hootie is going to be nice on Zhong Kui for two reasons. One, which is the reason why we all buy Rod Up to Hootie. Damage, 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 damage. But two, you have to keep in mind that Zhong Kui also has sustain through his second ability. And not only does Rod Up to Hootie give you that bonus damage when an enemy is at low HP, right? Basic attacks and abilities gain additional magic power against targets below 50% health. But you also gain that for sustain when you are below that number as well. So it's a little double whammy with some extra sustain for you. That is a winged blade Ymir right there. Goodbye, my Azumi friend. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal on the Zhong Kui with the bonus damage and the bonus sustain capabilities. Also, of course, gonna bring us right up to 30% penetration now in this build, as well as a little bit of flat pen from our Magus, but we are swinging. Getting about to that time of the game where we need to group up and go start looking near the fire giant. So I'm gonna call for the fire giant and see if we can get some people moving over here. Speaking of Ymir, hello, my friend. That's actually going to be quite a bit of damage right there. I'm going to have to pop my ultimate right now. Looks like Athena's going to be coming towards me, so I got to pop that bead. Watch out for a potential Yanis ulti. I'm going to pull this blue buff. I'm going to wait for him to spawn his minions, and then I'm going to give myself a nice little heal right off of that blue buff and head myself back on into the fight. Don't be afraid on Zhong Kui to utilize those jungle camps for the sustain. Jungle camps are a great way for you to quickly walk off, use a 1-2 combo, and then get yourself right back into the fight. The one thing you will see that is not really in this build is cooldown.
You're the chosen one.
Zhong Kui, much like Zeus, I find is kind of a one rotation ability god. So I don't standardly build a lot of the CDR on him. I find that a lot of the time you're gonna blink into a fight, you're gonna ultimate, you're gonna get all of your abilities out into the world, and then once your ultimate is down, you're a lot more susceptible, and if they're gonna turn on you and kill you, they're probably gonna turn on you and kill you regardless. So I would rather that my one-time abilities that come out be that much more powerful, so I don't really get CDR. On the Zonger Donger, I try to embrace a little bit more lifesteal, a little bit more power, try to keep me alive. Now, Yanis has used his beads. No, not his beads. That was his ultimate. It's hard to tell in that chibi skin. That's a fun little rando fact for you, by the way. That chibi Janus skin, always beneficial to use because it is very difficult to tell when he is actually ulting in that skin. Small bit of a pay to win on that one. Banned competitively because of it. There's a lot of skins that are actually banned competitively because they give you small in-game advantages like that. But that is neither here nor there for Zhong Kui, because Zhong Kui barely has any skins. All right, here at the end of the game, going into these Phoenix fights, I would prefer not to be the one tanking a tower. We do want to get over to the left lane. I need to help my guys. So I'm going to go for the blink right now. I'm going to blink in. I'm going to ulti. I'm just going to follow up for immediate damage on Leander. He's got an Aegis, but it's okay. He's got a ton of bleeds on him, so he's going to go down no matter what. And I'm going to start auto-attacking the Phoenix. Your Phoenix damage on Zhong Kui is surprisingly good because you get those double autos. He's my 1 and my 3 on the Gilgamesh right there to follow up with a big stun.
Attack middle lane.
They've got respawns here in about 10 seconds. We can bring in the Oni creeps from left and from mid, so no reason for us not to grab this mid Phoenix on the way over there. Now they've got the respawn on Athena coming up in 2 seconds, but we've got Oni creeps from left. We're gonna have these Oni creeps from mid. We should be able to put this one right on away. As far as the rest of our build this game was concerned, I would have upgraded my Vam Shroud into that Sacrificial Shroud this game because it was going well, and I have enough sustain in my build between the Sacrificial Shroud, the Spear of the Magus, and the Shoes of the Magi, and of course my 1-2 combo to keep me at full HP, so I could have embraced that extra damage at the end, and then our last item there would have been a little situational. Of course, you always have to keep in mind that you might need to get yourself a Divine Ruin. Zhong Kui, a great applier of Divine Ruin, because of all of his giant AoE abilities. So make sure you keep that in mind. A Spear of Desolation can be a nice way to get a lot of CDR into your build without actually having to build a lot of CDR. Plus, it gives you a little bit more flat pen or even a defensive item at that stage of the game. Zhong Kui already is doing so much damage, especially if you go that Sacrificial Shroud. So you could go Typhon's Fang to really embrace that lifesteal, which actually makes you a lot tankier, or even grab yourself something like a Mantle of Discord and just say, hey, if they're gonna try to force me down, then they're gonna hate every last moment of it, guys. And that is your Zhong Kui mid lane guide. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.